Back to our channel. Now we want to start the skin and superficial fascia of the anterior abdominal wall. So first we'll start with the skin. The skin of anterior abdominal wall is capable of undergoing a lot of stretching as it is seen in pregnancy, and whenever there is accumulation of fat also you can see, which is called obesity, or like fluid, when the fluid fills it is called ascites. And whenever there is a growth of large intra-abdominal tumors, in such cases you can observe the skin elasticity, especially in our anterior abdominal wall. So you can see here, this is an image showing a skin of anterior abdominal wall. So undue stretching may result in formation of whitish streaks in the skin of lower part of anterior abdominal. Actually, you can see some, even in fat people, like there are like stretch marks. I think you are listening to this word stretch marks. That is nothing but if the skin has undergone a lot of stretching, then the marks, whitish marks, are formed, which are called as linea albicans. Okay, linea albicans. Now let us start our discussion on umbilicus. Okay, so umbilicus is normal scar in an anterior abdominal wall. It is formed by remnants of root of umbilical cord. We know this. So the position of umbilicus is variable. In healthy adults, it lies in anterior medial line. Okay, exactly in anterior medial line, at the level of like disc between third and fourth lumbar vertebra. So umbilicus lies between L3 or L4 vertebra, that is lumbar vertebra. Okay, and it's somewhat lower in infants and persons with pendulous abdomen. Pendulous abdomen means like who are having lot of fat, or like small children with like heavy stomach. So all those cases, this position of umbilicus may vary from L3 or L4 to some other position. Okay. And apart from this embryological importance, there are several facts of umbilicals like anatomical importance. So actually, with reference to lymphatic and venous drainage, the level of umbilicus is watershed. So about this watershed, we'll discuss more detail in our veins. Okay, so just remember that this umbilicus region is called a watershed because the lymph and venous blood flows upwards above the plane of umbilicus or downwards below the plane, but they will not cross the umbilical plane. So what they mean to say is, actually, if the lymphatics or venous above the umbilicus, they will not come here downward. There will be only in their compartment, and this lymph from this lower part will be here only. It will not cross either from upside. It will not cross downward. Either from downward, it will not cross upward. So the umbilical area is like watershed area. Means it will not allow water, or like what to say, lymph along this line. So it's like a boundary for upper and lower lymphatics. Now coming to the skin. The skin around the umbilicus is mainly supplied by T10 segment of spinal cord. That is also one more important thing. So first thing what you need to remember is like it is in the level of L3 and L4. Okay. And the next thing what you need to remember is it is supplied by T10 spinal cord segment. Next coming to umbilicus, it's like one of the important site at which tributaries of portal vein anastomose with systematic veins. So actually portocaval anastomosis also takes place here. So portocaval anastomosis means what happens is, the tributaries of portal vein anastomose with systemic veins. Means portal vein means liver vein. The liver vein will anastomose with systemic vein. Systemic vein means other general body veins. So general body veins and liver veins both will anastomose at this umbilicus site. So that is called as portocaval anastomosis. And in portal hypertension, these anastomoses open up to form dilated veins which are radiating from umbilicus, and that is called caput medusae. So what is caput medusae? Caput medusae means, especially in portal hypertension, means whenever there is lot of blood in the venous blood of our liver, right? At that time actually what happens, this portocaval anastomosis at the umbilical will swell up because of lot of blood. So because of this swelling, it forms like a structure called as caput medusae. Okay. And however, blood flow in dilated veins is normal and does not break the barrier of watershed line. So what they mean to say is, you may think that if caput medusae form as more pressure, the water may shift from here or there, but no. Even in that heavy portal hypertension also, this umbilicus line will act as a watershed line, and it will not allow the fluid from lower side to go upside, and upper side fluid will not get allowed into the lower side. So this umbilicus also have some embryological importance, like umbilicus is a meeting point of like four folds of embryonic plate, that is two from the lateral side and two from the medial side. So actually this medial and lateral head and tail folds of embryonic plane are meeting at the point of umbilicus. And this is also a meeting point of three systems, like you can see here the digestive system, that is the vitellointestinal duct and excretory urachus, and also vascular umbilical vessels. So you can see three important structures in embryological development are taking place here. That is the digestive system, which will be present over here, that is the vitellointestinal duct, excretory part like urachus, and also vascular part umbilical vessels. So now coming to the clinical anatomy of umbilicus. So clinical anatomy is the remnants of vitellointestinal duct may form a tumor at umbilicus called raspberry or red tumor, or also called cherry red tumor. So remember this red cherry or raspberry, they are forming a tumor because of the vitellointestinal duct at the level of umbilicus. And this results in a fecal fistula at umbilicus. So it will result in fecal fistula in umbilicus. Next, coming to persistent of urachus may form an urinary fistula opening at umbilicus. Okay, so sometimes urachus may also persist and form a fistula which will open into umbilicus. Next comes in early fetal life, some loops of intestine normally herniate out of abdomen in the region of umbilicus. So loops of intestine also herniate, and this is called exomphalos. So exomphalos, what is that? Exomphalos. Exomphalos is a clinical anatomy related to it. So that is the intestinal intestinal contents only will come out as hernia, that is exomphalos. Next, failure of development of infraumbilical part of anterior abdominal wall. So sometimes the umbilical part will be underdeveloped and it will result in ectopia vaccia, in which interior of urinary bladder is exposed on surface of body. So actually just below this, if there is any abnormal development, then urinary bladder interior structure will expose towards outside. So in the latter life, the weakness of abdominal wall may lead to formation of hernia at umbilicus. So if in the embryo, actually the hernia, you listen abdominal hernia many times, like, so how it develops, it is actually a problem which is coming from embryological time itself, where this lower part of umbilicus is weakly developed. So because of that, in a later life it may lead to formation of hernia at umbilicus. Okay, so by this we have completed the skin of anterior abdominal wall. In the next video, as this video is getting longer, in the next video we'll start the superficial fascia of anterior abdominal wall.